All right, today we're diving into one of the biggest stories out there, the story of you. We're talking about personality, that unique blueprint inside each of us that shapes how we think, feel, and act. Let's get right into it. I mean, have you ever just stopped and wondered, what really makes you, well, you? Why do you react to things the way you do? What makes you so different from your best friend or your siblings? We're all searching for that stable, unique pattern that we call our personality. You know, the word personality itself has a pretty cool origin story. It comes from the Latin word persona, which literally meant mask. Think about an actor in an ancient Greek play. They'd put on a mask to show the audience exactly who they were supposed to be. It's such a great metaphor for the version of ourselves we show to the world. But of course, it's not just a mask, right? In psychology, personality is way, way deeper than that. It's about the real machinery humming away inside of us that guides everything we do. So let's take a look at how the experts actually define it. Here's a classic definition from one of the godfathers of personality psychology, Gordon Allport. Let's unpack that a bit. Dynamic organization. That tells you it's not just a random bag of traits. It's an active, organized system that's always working. And psychophysical. That's huge. It means it's a mix of both your mind and your body. It's the whole you. Then you have another giant in the field, Raymond Cattell, who comes at it from a totally different angle. For him, the key word is prediction. Your personality is the thing that lets us make an educated guess about how you're going to act in any given situation. It's about the patterns. So, if we stitch all of that together, what do we get? A few key themes start to pop out. Personality is organized. It's consistent. It's why you're still you from one day to the next. It's driven by what's going on inside you, your thoughts, your feelings. And ultimately, it's what makes your behavior uniquely yours. Now let's clear something up really quick. We toss around words like personality, character, and temperament all the time. But for a psychologist, they're different things. Personality is the whole car. Character is your moral compass, the GPS telling you where to go. And temperament? That's the engine you were born with, your natural tendency to be calm or energetic or irritable. This whole quest to figure ourselves out, it's not some modern thing. It's an ancient obsession. Seriously. Long before there were labs and scientific journals, people were trying to understand why we are the way we are. And you have to check this out. Way back in ancient Greece, they came up with one of the first ever biological theories of personality. They thought it all came down to a balance of 4 bodily fluids, or humors. If you had too much yellow bile, you were choleric, irritable, ambitious. Too much blood, and you were sanguine, super cheerful and social. It sounds kind of wild now, but it was a groundbreaking first attempt to link our biology to how we act. And then, boom, the late 1800s hit, and we pivot hard from philosophy to actual science. Wilhelm Wundt opens the very first psychology lab. William James starts writing about the self and our habits in a scientific way, and Francis Galton starts trying to measure what makes people different, which really set the stage for everything that came after. The race was on. And that race led directly into the 20th century, which was just an absolute clash of the titans. You had these brilliant minds, each with their own powerful and often completely contradictory idea about what makes us tick. And you just can't talk about this era without talking about Sigmund Freud. He pictured our mind as this constant negotiation between 3 parts. Your id is that little kid inside, stomping its feet, screaming, "I want that cake and I want it now." Your superego is the stern parent, wagging a finger, saying, "No, that's bad for you." And your poor ego is stuck in the middle, the exhausted diplomat trying to negotiate a peace treaty, like, okay, how about one small piece after dinner? That inner battle is happening inside us all the time. So you had this huge debate raging. On one side, the psychoanalysts like Freud were saying our unconscious past secretly runs the show. Then the behaviorists like B.F. Skinner barged in and said, nope, it's all about what you've learned to do. Then the humanists came along with a more optimistic view, saying we're all just trying to grow. And all the while, the trait theorists were just quietly trying to measure the stable characteristics that make us who we are. Okay, so with all these competing ideas, you might be thinking, how do I even begin to compare them? Well, psychologists came up with a kind of toolkit, a framework you can use to break down and analyze any theory of personality, no matter how old or new. I want you to think of every single one of these theories as a different map of the human mind. And for any map to actually be useful, it absolutely has to answer 5 fundamental questions. Once you know these 5 questions, you can unlock the core of any personality theory out there. All right, first up is structure. This is the what question.
What are the fundamental building blocks? What is personality even made of, according to this map? Is it a set of traits like extroversion? Is it the id, ego, and superego? That's structure.
Next in our toolkit, dynamics. This is the big why. What's the engine? What's the fuel that makes us go? For Freud, it was all about sex and aggression. For humanists, it's the drive to become our best selves. It's the motivational force.
Okay, number 3 is development, the how. How do we become who we are? What's the journey from baby to adult look like on this particular map? Does it happen in stages like Freud believed? Or is it a lifelong process of learning?
Fourth, we have psychopathology, a bit of a clinical term, but it's really the problem question. What happens when the map leads us to a bad place? Why do we feel anxious or depressed? Each theory has a different answer for what goes wrong.
And that brings us to the 5th and final piece of the puzzle, change. This is the solution. If the map shows us where we're lost, how does it help us find our way back? This is where different kinds of therapy come from. Each one is based on a theory's idea of how to fix the problem.
All right, that was a whirlwind tour, right? From ancient Greece to Freud's couch. So, where are we now? Has science finally settled on one perfect map of the mind? Well, not exactly, but we've gotten a lot closer. Well, today, the king of the hill when it comes to the structure of personality is what's called the 5-factor model. You probably know it as the Big Five. The easiest way to remember it is with the acronym OCEAN. Its real genius is its simplicity and how well it seems to describe people's core tendencies pretty much everywhere in the world.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Where does this stuff come from? Modern research, especially from studies on twins, has given us a pretty stunning number. It looks like around 40 to 50% of the differences we see in personality traits can be traced back to our genes. That's a huge piece of the puzzle, but it also means there's a ton of room for your life, your choices, and your environment to shape the rest.
So think about that. We've gone from bodily fluids and unconscious desires all the way to brain chemistry and the Big Five. It has been this incredible, centuries-long quest to understand what's going on inside us. Which brings it all back to where we started. After hearing all these different theories, all these different maps, which one do you think tells the story of you the best?